In today's video, Democrats suffer a huge legal blow. Also, Democrat Congressman Hollen struggles to defend himself. And more polling shows that President Trump has the American people on his side.
Breaking news tonight in Washington, the news continuing through the evening, especially at the Supreme Court. There is a string of major legal wins for the Trump administration tonight. A federal judge just denied the ACLU's request to stop the Trump administration from deporting dozens of Venezuelans from Texas to El Salvador. So they can go ahead with this. The ACLU is now asking the Supreme Court to step in. They have not yet. Also tonight, the D.C. Court of Appeals blocked the same federal judge's attempt to hold members of the Trump administration in contempt of court.
Okay, so here's a copy of the filing that was posted today. There's actually 3 judges on the Court of Appeals. 2 of them, which were Trump appointed, ruled in favor to pause this contempt order. And the one that was not obviously appointed by Trump dissented. And there's an actual statement here at the bottom saying that, the Trump administration has no grounds for an administrative stay here. And the bottom line is this is just going to be a pause so they can review the merits of the case, meaning should the appeals court throw out this contempt order because Judge Boasberg does not have the authority to do what he's doing with the executive branch, or does he have the authority to hold the Trump administration in contempt? That's what we're going to find out, and we'll probably get the answer next week. Yeah, so clearly that is a legal blow for the Democrat Party. However, they've also been hit with a political one, because now that they are using Mr. Garcia, who is confirmed to be an MS-13 gangbanger and potential wife beater, as the face of their movement of due process, won't that backfire on them?
And let's talk politically, not legally. If they do show in court that he is a member of MS-13, they actually make that argument in court filings, which, again, they have not done so far. Are you worried this could backfire on your party politically?
You know, it's so funny, Caitlin, how everybody wants to talk about the politics of it. It's so far beyond that. Due process is the essential core element of our constitutional system. If we don't have due process for everybody in the country, all is lost, because anybody can be swept off of the street and deported and taken out someplace. And so I hope I still live in a country right now where the vast majority of the people support the Constitution and due process.
Okay, the congressman is right. We love due process, but for American citizens, not illegal aliens who are part of MS-13 and beat up their wife and traffic human beings. Stop it already, okay? Here's President Trump. Just adding more insult to injury, right? He put up this photo. I'm not even going to read the caption. I think the photo says everything. Look at this. This is a photo, allegedly, of Mr. Garcia's hand that shows the tattoos that clearly state MS-13. Who's going to win here politically? You guys let me know in the comment section below. Just think, if you were an independent, maybe even a moderate Democrat, whose side are you taking at this point? Now, Leland on News Nation asked a Democrat congresswoman, former actually from California, a simple question about Mr. Garcia and the claims from his wife and whether or not this is the right guy to make their argument. Take a look at her response.
Congressman, I'll ask you, did Democrats pick the wrong hero?
We don't know, because there was no due process. We actually have not seen the evidence go
What happened to believe all
a
women?
Judge. Pardon me?
What happened to believe all women?
Well, I don't know about that. All I know is that he did not have due process. He did not go before a judge. When he did go before a judge, everybody said, keep him here, don't send him back, because there are gangs that are, it's a peril to his life. He did have a court order that allowed him to stay here. The Trump administration deported him anyway.
Okay, well, first she says she doesn't know about that. I think that tells you how, if you use Democrats' logic against them, they glitch out, right? That's number one. Now, number two, then she claimed that he didn't go in front of a judge, and then she said he did go in front of a judge. So which one is it? So in the end, they got multiple problems here. One, you don't want to be using an MS-13 gang member to be the face of your argument. Number two, there are people who believe he was actually sipping margaritas with Mr. Garcia, which prompted the senator to hold a press conference today to defend himself. Take a look.
As we were talking, one of the government people came over and deposited 2 other glasses on the table with ice, and I don't know if it was salt or sugar around the top, but they look like margaritas. And if you look at the one they put in front of Kilmar, it actually had a little less liquid than the one in front of me, to try to make it look, I assume, like he drank out of it. Let me just be very clear. Neither of us touched the drinks that were in front of us.
That's why I told you politically this is a loss for Democrats, okay? Because the optics are wrong here. Why are you using an illegal alien, someone who's not an American citizen, someone who broke the law to enter our country illegally, someone whose wife has repeatedly claimed that he was beating her up, and then when she was confronted over it, she went silent. He was also caught trafficking people, but the FBI let him go. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but this is the guy they want to use.
The White House and the president have been lying about this case from the beginning. They've been trying to change the subject from the beginning. As I said, and the courts have said, from the Supreme Court to the Fourth Circuit to the District Court, what this is about is adhering to the Constitution, to the right of due process. And that's why we say, bring Kilmar home, so he can be afforded his rights under the Constitution. That's what this is about.
Yeah, so he just explained exactly what Democrats want this to be about, but the reality is this is a hill that they're willing to die on that is not going to get them the results that they want. Now, I think, if anything, they're reacting to the fringe part of their base, the base that is violent, the base that doesn't clearly think for themselves. They're too emotionally driven. They're controlled by the political rhetoric of MSDNC. And so it's better to do something than to do nothing at all. And I think that's where Democrats are at. That's what we continue to see them do, which is why a lot of this stuff is erratic. Now, here is CNN following in lockstep on this entire theory and trying to get to the bottom of were there actual margaritas on the table or not.
And so, yeah, here you can see, this is why he was referencing it. It's a little hard to even see, but it's the
but
one
I
with
see what
the
he's
little,
talking about. You
right,
see,
the
there's
cherry.
there's no.
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
And
we're expert.
We need to take
margarita
that
drinkers.
big again. I'm sorry, Julian. If we could get the whole, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see, and again, Van Hollen was saying that rim, he wasn't sure if it was salt or it was sugar. The President Bukele referenced them as margaritas. They don't really appear to be that way, at least the way we know them here in the U.S.
All right, so let's thank CNN for getting to the bottom of this. I'm glad they were able to crack the case on whether or not this guy was sipping margaritas. But I think more seriously, who cares whether he was or not? The bottom line is he's done enough damage by going down there and crying about Mr. Garcia and not Rachel Morin, someone who's an actual American citizen. Now, this is just continuing to get disgusting because another congresswoman went on to Chris Cuomo and she got into a debate with Chris over this because he's not buying this either politically.
I don't understand the Democrats going to these lengths for this particular guy. Why do you want to be seen as though this guy, who may well be an MS-13 gang member, is like the guy you want to die for, going down to this hellhole in El Salvador? Why?
So I believe that this case is incredibly important, not just because of Kilmar Garcia himself, but because of what he represents. The fact that the President of the United States is willing to openly defy a Supreme Court order.
Well, for what's happening, I'm with you, okay? For what's happening, I'm with you. Due process matters. And I live in a place that is very rich with diversity, and a lot of the people here who are doing the work of this community are not here legally. But I got to tell you, they do not see themselves in Garcia because he is likely a gangbanger who had, a domestic problem with his wife. They do not see themselves when they look at him. And I don't understand why you just don't argue the law instead of kind of making a George Floyd play with this guy like he's some kind of patron saint of due process.
See, the issue here is that the legal side and the political side technically are not on the same page right now. Okay, because you had two judges, right, the district court and the appeals court, rule against President Trump on this. However, politically, when you're talking about the average American voter, especially people who are in the center, especially people who are not really all into politics, they see one look at this case and you know what they're thinking? Why are Democrats defending an MS-13 gang member? That doesn't make any sense. And to make my point even further about how this is a political loss for Democrats, just pay attention to this poll from CNN and how Americans feel about immediately deporting illegal aliens?
So this is a great question. Deport all undocumented immigrants. That is voters favoring a government effort to deport all 11 million. Look at where we are now in 2025. 56%, the majority of voters agree with this policy, support it, just 43% opposed. That is a massive rise from where we were in 2016 when, of course, Donald Trump was running for the Republican nomination the first time around when it was just 38%. The American public is much more so on Donald Trump's side now than back when he was running the first time around. Now, of course, this is the public at large, right? Let's dive a little bit more into the crosstabs, and this should give you a very interesting look at where the public is, all right? Deport more immigrants here illegally. Well, not much of a surprise, Jake. 90% of Republicans agree with that. But look in the middle of the electorate. Look here. We get 61% of independents agreeing with it, the clear majority. And how about among Democrats? Even there, you get about a third of Democrats agreeing with the idea that we should deport more immigrants who are here illegally.
61%, ladies and gentlemen, of independents support deporting illegal aliens immediately. These are the people who decide elections. So this is why I'm saying legally they might be able to continue to fight this in the courts. Clearly they will. They're going to appeal it all day long. But politically, how long do they want to keep using Mr. Garcia as the face for their argument?
The Democrats have been beaten so badly by Donald Trump. The only thing they can do is oppose him, even when they're going to stand with a gang member who had a legal deportation order, was in the country illegally, and was deported. And they would rather stand with that person than stand with the American people who want criminal illegal aliens deported out of this country. The polling has said that consistently. Donald Trump won a mandate last November to do this, but they don't care. They're just so caught up in opposing Donald Trump, they don't realize that they're opposing the American people. So if Chris Van Hollen or any other Democrat wants to go to El Salvador to go have brunch with Kilmar Garcia, be my guest, but all you're going to do is lose more elections in the United States.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, let's actually hear an emotional story and why we should continue to push back on this, because not only are the facts on our side, but the substance of people who are actually being hurt during this process. And what I mean by that is Biden's inability to secure our border is the real cause to the effects that we're seeing today.
There was a 14-year-old girl that we discovered who was trafficked across the border in the previous administration, stolen from her family in her home country. The Biden administration made no attempt to return her to her home country or to return her to her family in her home country or to reunify her in any way with her family in her home country. Instead, they resettled her in the United States with a so-called sponsor. That so-called sponsor, all funded by our taxpayers, this entire procedure funded by taxpayers, that so-called sponsor was himself an illegal alien. So subject to himself removal and deportation. Again, the Biden administration did not deport the sponsor, but handed the girl over to the sponsor. The sponsor claimed to be that girl's brother. He was not, in fact, her brother. The Biden administration, of course, did not attempt to verify this in any way, shape, or form, as they did not for the hundreds of thousands of minors that were placed in the hands of illegal aliens. They know they were being lied to. They didn't care they were being lied to. This individual was an illegal alien who had no familial relation with this young girl. What happened next will not surprise you, although it will sadden you. He raped the 14-year-old girl and impregnated her. So the Biden administration took a young girl, took her away from her family, brought her into the United States, resettled her with an illegal alien, 26-year-old adult male, subjected her to rape and what anyone would describe as torture. So the young girl was tortured and raped and impregnated as a result of the choices made by the Biden administration. When this case was brought to the Biden administration for prosecution, they turned it down and did not even prosecute the case.
And that's why we are going to continue to push back and respond to this, I would call fake news, misinformation, and propaganda from the left. Okay, because they don't want to tell you the other side. They don't want to give you the actual facts of the individuals they are so aggressively defending. That's why you notice they never speak about the actual American citizen who's been impacted by this mass invasion that Joe Biden allowed to occur. Now, this brings me to the question of this video. And I'd love for you guys to get your answer in the comment section below to this. What do you guys think about the rulings that we talked about earlier in the video in regards to the judge obviously getting smacked down by the appeals court because he's trying to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt, all because the president is just trying to do his job, what he was elected to do, which was to deport the violent criminals out of our country. Let me know your thoughts to that in the comment section below. Now, speaking of facts, because that's what we want to obviously share with you on this show, earlier today, not only President Trump, but Tom Homan had to fact check CNN repeatedly because they continue to lie about this entire case as it pertains to Mr. Garcia. If you missed out on that story and more from earlier today, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.